Hi, everybody. We're the Skeleton Crew, and we've got a piece of hot garbage for you to look at this week. It is our second Dromaeosaur, and our first one since the first episode of this series.
It is.
Wow.
Yeah, and
so cool.
And I, for one, have thoughts about it. But before you hear what those thoughts are, I'm contractually obligated to remind you that we have a Patreon page that you should support if you can, and that you should like and comment on this video because it helps us in the algorithm and helps more people see it. I'm also required to inform you that I'm Dr. James Napoli. I'm a postdoctoral research scholar at the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences and North Carolina State University. And I've had a long and rough day, and I'm going to take it out on this perfectly adequate dinosaur design.
Okay. I've had a rough day as well, but I'm sure, some of you know about it. Those of you on the internet can go ahead and guess, and just, you don't want to know. You don't want to know what kind of day I've had. You don't want to know what I've done. It's a bad thing. Anyways, I'm under no obligation to tell you this, but my name is Amelia Zietlow. I'm a PhD candidate at the American Museum of Natural History.
Well, to join the party on people who had rough and complicated days today, hi, my name is Scott Johnston, and I am the vertebrate paleontology fossil preparator and technician at the Harvard University Museum of Comparative Zoology. And I'm doing great. Living the dream.
Hi. I slept for 4 hours. I'm Alex. We've all had a rough day. I was a person once known as Alex Rubenstall. Now I belong to the Dream Lords of the Sleepland. I was a PhD candidate at Yale University.
Was? Past tense?
He also was
Next.
Alex Rubenstall.
Keep up with the bit, Scott.
I was yes-anding your bit. Whatever, go on.
Yes, and I am Dalton Meyer. I'm a thirsty little drink boy and a PhD candidate at Yale University. My day wasn't any rougher than most of the days, which are, by and large, pretty rough, but otherwise is unremarkable. And together,
we're the
Skeleton Crew.
We're collecting your bones.
Thirsty little drink boy.
He is a thirsty little drink boy.
Dalton.
Yes.
With that, I suppose you must show us this animal.
Let's
release him.
Hims.
This is not a him.
Oh.
Thems.
Here they come.
Oh shit, what up? Oh, I like the purple a lot.
That's an interesting thing.
Let's let it.
This is almost the best Dromaeosaur design in the game.
Oh wow, it is.
Let's think about that.
It is. It's the second best.
Yep.
Of
all the animals in the game, this one the most resembles what a Dromaeosaur looked like.
Well, I mean, in integument, yes, I'd say the skull is still worse than the OG Velociraptor.
In outline, I think
It's less boxy than the other ones.
Well, I mean, the OG Velociraptor doesn't look like Velociraptor, but I think it looks kind of like Soren Valestes is reconstructed currently with that kind of boxy skull.
Alright, this is called Pyroraptor.
Oh yeah, we didn't even say what its name was.
What does that mean?
Pyroraptor. Well, who's supposed to do etymology?
Who knows?
Sure.
I don't think it matters.
So, Pyroraptor is actually a super cool name. It means the fire thief, and its species epithet is Olympius, which you might think, as I did very recently, that putting fire thief and of Olympius together in a name would be, oh, this is a cool reference to the myth of Prometheus. Wrong. It's called Fire Thief because it was stolen from a fire. And in that sense, I mean, it was discovered after a forest fire burned through the region of southern France, specifically in Provence. And it was, and its species epithet is derived from Mount Olympe. a mountain in Provence, so it has nothing to do with the myth of Prometheus.
Boy, I wonder if that name was doing a lot of heavy lifting that got it into Jurassic World Dominion.
This yellow
We
one
can
that's
only-
drinking
we can
looks
only
really
guess.
good.
Yeah. No,
Oh,
this skin is actually, it almost makes it feel naturalistic.
I think it's worth pointing out to our viewer that in the myth of Prometheus, Prometheus deserves his punishment. It was a mistake to give us fire. It was a mistake for humans to know, like the gods know. We should have stayed naked in the field. Science.
Does this animal
Alex,
deserve
you-
its punishment, though?
Yes. So do we
No.
make a new tier for this that's to be chained to a rock and have its liver eaten by a bird every single day?
French
French.
tier.
No,
F for French.
that's the F tiers.
Which is synonymous
Yes.
with to be chained to a rock and have your liver eaten every single day by an eagle.
Clearly.
No, this is the bird that is eating the liver of another dromaeosaur that we will chain
That's
in Tartarus. Okay.
Amelia, I think you were trying to say something earlier that I bit it over.
I don't remember. I think I was gonna call Alex a kick for wanting people to be naked in the field.
What?
You're gonna
I
what?
heard that.
I heard that.
I said
I didn't hear
I
it.
said I was gonna ask Alex if he was a tick because he wanted people naked in the field. It was a very stupid, low effort joke.
No, it was fun.
That's good. I
My-
mean, hey,
And from Connecticut, so there's a good chance.
yeah. That's where all the wealth in Connecticut came from. It's just a lot of
Lyme
ticks
disease.
started biting the right people.
And I'm so tired. I look like I have Lyme disease. So,
Yeah, you do.
you know,
Speaking from experience, that shit makes you look tired. Yes. Okay. So the elephant in the room here is that all of. Well, okay. There's a lot of elephants in the room here.
There's a lot of the room is made of elephants.
we're a zoo.
Right. So Pyroraptor. I know a little bit about why Pyroraptor is in Jurassic World Dominion because I've spoken to people who are close to Steve Brusatte, who I've worked with in the past. I published my first paper with him. But Steve Brusatte, for those unaware, was the scientific advisor for Jurassic World Dominion. And I don't know how much of what I know is allowed to be told, and so I won't relate the story of why it's in the movie. But it's not really for anything we know about the animal. And the very simple reason for that is because we don't know anything about Pyroraptor.
Well, that's a little severe.
We know it had... So the holotype of Pyroraptor is a sickle claw. And the other bones are the other sickle claw, one metatarsal, an ulna, and 2 teeth.
So
Hot dog.
it's 2 specimens.
I think every specimen is numbered separately. But I don't know if that's because they are necessarily different individuals or if they were not found in association, so they're doing it conservatively.
Okay, I was gonna say. So what I was getting at is it one individual or not?
I don't know if that's known confidently.
Isn't it also...
love that.
There's material for... Oh, sorry, Amelia.
No, it's okay. I love when we name a holotype for something we're not sure is one individual.
Well, I mean, in fairness to them, that's why they restricted the holotype just to the claw.
That
So,
is
like,
fair. Yeah.
Yeah, they referred all the rest of the material, which I've seen people do a lot when you've got kind of a jumble of material and you're like, we think this is all one thing, but to be safe, the holotype will be this part of it, and then the rest of it is just referred. But
So there's like Pyroraptor or something that's been referred to Pyroraptor from another country, right? Or has that been reassigned
Yeah.
to like Pyroraptor?
I think that's
something like-
Veroraptor.
Oh, is that the teeth from the Iberian Peninsula?
I have no idea.
No, I think those are something else. Hold on, No, I can't change windows. I will use my phone.
Now, as Jimbo does this is where I would normally, with excitement and joy, bubbly joy on my face, talk about phylogeny and where it goes. But there is no joy, and there is no phylogeny. No.
Just one.
There is only the French and a fire that should have burned these fossils, so we didn't have to know about them. So let's talk about where Pyroraptor goes. In past analyses, fade to the past, it's been found. Probably a Dromaeosaur. Probably. Is it a Dromaeosaur? Maybe. That's the group that includes Velociraptor and Deinonychus and kind of the bigger, bitier, macro-predatory dromaeosaurs. Is it a earlier diverging dromaeosaur, like an Unanlagi, which are probably dromaeosaurs? I don't care what other phylogenies say right now. Maybe. Probably not. Because that's a group with a pretty particular distribution, but maybe, I don't know. Who knows? It's a mess. It's like 8 bones, and the interrelationships of Parabians are a disaster.
So my favorite thing to do is run my own analyses of. So, like when Alex and I were working on the paper describing Curricula, I had to go through my phylogenetic analysis and find the wildcard taxa, we call them. This is a nice term for all of you people who like terms in paleontology. A wildcard taxon is a taxon, which is any taxonomic group, so a species all the way up to a higher category. But in this case, it refers to a species. That can occupy a bunch of different positions in a phylogeny with equal parsimony. So it doesn't change the overall score of the tree. And that causes your consensus trees to resolve into things that look less like trees and look more like a cone. In my analysis, I think Pyroraptor was able to occupy literally every conceivable position within Dromaeosauridae with equal support. So Pyroraptor is not included in the phylogeny that we published in the Curricula paper because we presented what's called a reduced strict consensus topology, where we take the strict what?
No, go ahead.
What, is it not strict if it's reduced?
Well, no, I was just going to say, like, finish your thought.
Okay, all right. So we presented a reduced strict consensus tree, which means that you take the strict consensus, so everything that's agreed upon by every one of your phylogenies, but you do that while removing wildcards that are obscuring the shape of the tree underneath. And so that's how we got the phylogeny we presented in the Curricula paper. All of that's described in the paper. If you're curious, you can go check it out. But the end result is, what I'm getting at is Pyroraptors are really, really unstable. We have no idea what kind of dinosaur it is.
Don't look too closely at any of that there support value. You won't like what you find.
Support values are pointless.
Well, you can't look too closely at the support values because I say support values of greater than 1 are noted, and there's like 3 support values in the tree that are greater than 1. Yeah, well, I mean, and I should note, that's Bremer support, so Bremer support's usually done on a scale of like 1 to 9, with 9 being the best. So like 1 isn't 1 out of 100. It's still quite weak, but and we'll make a video about how you do tree supports and all of that. But unfortunately, this is an issue throughout dinosaur systematics, and it speaks to what I've contended before as a broader issue within dinosaur paleontology, which is that a lot of studies now are using the same matrices and adding either new species to them or adding a very small paucity of new character information, rather than whole de novo studies of phylogenetics that are done under different assumptions. In the mid-2000s, I think it was pretty common for different graduate students or postdocs or early career researchers to have their own matrix that they were working on and building. And I think that led to a diversity of different hypotheses. And in a large part, the apparent agreement of a lot of different phylogenetic analyses nowadays is because we're using the same data set over and over again. The support values of those data sets are weak, which means that we don't actually have a very firm grasp on dinosaur systematics. We are all using the same data sets, which always give us the same answer. Now, you might be thinking somebody should work on that. and
God knows we're trying.
And we're doing our damnedest. But this is actually a long-term project that me and Alex and Dalton are currently working on, to try to kind of make our own analysis of a lot of this stuff and see what happens. So if you keep watching the channel, we'll probably make a video on the results of that in about 35 to 40 years when we're done. So Make sure you subscribe so that you get notified 35 to 40 years from now when we're done with our Matrix.
If we hold out long enough, they'll just invent a new kind of phylogenetics that is better.
I'm just holding out for the time machine so I can go back in time and shoot one.
Well, we have to shoot a few so we can have a tree.
Right. We have to shoot a bunch of them. Just like wrestle them to the ground and take tissue punctures
Just
in their leg.
the way that you said we have to shoot a few of them so we can have a tree, I just had a picture of that one scene in Blood Meridian with all the corpses on the tree, except it's just you two just like stapling Dromaeosaurs to an actual physical tree.
We take the tissue sample, like just scrape a little bit of tissue, and then throw the entire carcass into the fire.
We got it. Yeah.
Things that exist without my knowledge exist without my consent.
God, so that means that Dromaeosaur phylogeny certainly exists without our consent.
100%.
Ugh.
Anyway, back to Pyroraptor.
This is a fairly nihilistic video.
As
Yeah,
opposed
yeah.
to our regular
We've had
videos.
I don't know, this one feels a little grim.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're probably gonna say some nice things about the design, or you guys will. I have very few positive things to say about it, but I guess I'll say the few positive things I have.
Do we want to... I don't think we're really going to have a chance to talk about early... That was very cool, I like that. Early diverging dromaeosaurs at all.
That's true. So yeah, why don't we run through what those are? Well, I'm actually working on a paper about a Halschkaraptorian right now, so
Wow.
I'll take that.
Go for it, King.
Yeah, so there are a couple of groups that are considered to comprise dromaeosaurs or raptor dinosaurs. There are phylogenetic hypotheses that do not place them within Dromaeosauridae, so they think they're separate radiations within bird-like dinosaurs. For the purposes of this video, I'll assume that what appears to be the current consensus is correct, which would mean that the earliest divergent group of dromaeosaurids are a weird group of duck or goose-like animals called Halschkaraptorians. The first example of this was Mahakala, which was discovered at Tugurdin Shuri, which is a Geodocta Formation Gobi Desert locality by Eamon H. Bruce. It was described in 2007 by Alan Turner. It was part of his PhD.
And not... Upon its original discovery was not... Halschkaraptorian as a group did not exist.
Well, right. Well, I mean, there was only one of them, and it did not preserve... It preserved parts of the anatomy that made it very clear it was an early dromaeosaurid, or a basal dromaeosaurid. But it didn't preserve the weird parts. So then, fast forward to 2017, in December of 2017. I remember this day vividly because I was at a bar in Stony Brook, around the campus, with Alan when the paper came out. Or it's like maybe a couple hours after the paper came out, because I think he'd already taken a look at it. And I was just like, Alan, what the fuck is that thing that they just published? And he was like, apparently it's the sister taxon to Mahakala. And, like, we just kind of complained about it for a while because it looks so stupid.
Well, I think, Jimbo, I think in this discussion of Halschkaraptorians, I think it's worth pointing out that based on the most conservative estimates of Paravian evolution, Paravians evolved in the late Middle Jurassic.
Right.
Maybe a few million years earlier. And every Halschkaraptorian is like 72 million years old or younger. So the groups are originating 163-ish million years ago. And the earliest diverging members are from the late Cretaceous.
Right. This, to put it in
I can forgive people for topologies where they're like, maybe these are like not dromaeosaurs.
Right. No. I don't intend any shade at people who found them as not dromaeosaurs. I apologize if I gave that impression. What I mean more about is that Alan was complaining about how weird the animal was. And we were kind of complaining about it together because it is a very weird animal. Right.
Very.
No, I mean, if they turn out to not be dromaeosaurids, I would not be incredibly surprised. They clearly show a lot of affinity with them.
They got a lot of little teeth.
They do, but I think that's just plesiomorphic. That's the ancestral condition.
Early,
Yeah,
Not to
sure, certainly.
entirely derail this conversation, but speaking of weird, have you noticed that the feathers don't cast a shadow?
Oh, well, that is weird.
Yeah.
Are you sure about that?
And
Oh,
its
yeah,
arms.
the tail.
Oh
I did not know.
my-
And the arms, yeah.
I could have sworn it did when it did like the flap animation.
This is weird. Oh, that one's parallel.
So strange.
Or perpendicular to the sun. That one, that orange one right there. Orange bitch.
Yeah.
Look at his arms!
Oh
no.
my god.
We're just gonna
That's-
say, don't worry about that.
I mean, that just is clearly how, like, a difference of, like, how they rigged the feathers versus the body.
He's haunted.
Also, it leaves tridactyls.
He's,
Yeah.
he's haunted by
Yeah.
the shadows of reconstructions past.
So anyway, Halskaraptorines. The upshot of Halskaraptorines is that they appear, based on a lot of current evidence that's been argued, it appears that they may have been semi-aquatic. We talked about a Halskaraptorine in our first video,
Oh my god, we did.
which we will
Yeah.
remember to link. Right, the discovery of Nadovenator polydontus.
I forgot its name.
And we were not particularly convinced of the semi-aquatic lifestyle in that video.
No,
You
and
say
I don't
like
know
it's
if I
changed now.
No, well, okay,
Remain.
yeah, I guess I don't know, whatever.
I remain skeptical, but it certainly has been published on a lot, and there is an undeniable goose-likeness about the body plan of Halskaraptor and its relatives. So those are Halskaraptorines. They are interesting critters. And to put it, what Alex said is I think worthy of comment. The time between their origin and when they appear in the fossil record is like if the group had originated in the Middle Cretaceous, and the first one of them we ever saw was alive right now.
The missing gap is like as long as the Cenozoic.
It like 30 million years longer. It's like take the Cenozoic, add half of it again. And that's the period of time where these small bird-like dinosaurs were evolving, and we know almost nothing about what was going on.
The fossil record's really good.
It's great.
We can make
Fossil
make
record's
actual
so good.
inferences
Yum, yum.
about diversity.
Stop it.
Yum,
Yum yum.
Oh.
Gang
Uh-huh.
gang.
Gang gang.
Thank you. No, okay, that's gonna date this video.
Yeah.
So what's the next group of early diverging dromaeosaurs?
Well, you mentioned
Jimbo?
them before, so why don't you take it? The Unenlagians.
Oh, I guess. Ew, no. They're cool. They're a funky group. And we've talked a little about them on the channel because there was one in Prehistoric Planet.
Well, maybe two, depending on if you count the baby Pyroraptors or not.
I
I
don't.
forgot they were in that.
There was one.
Well, they were also baby Kurukolas, but
Yeah, let's not worry about it.
Yeah.
So, the next, yes, on the traditional tree of dromaeosaurs, we have our Unenlagi. Now, this is a group that is almost exclusively from the southern hemisphere and almost exclusively from South America. And also exclusively from the Middle Cretaceous to the end of the Cretaceous. So the same problem emerges. It's just like 20 million years, not as bad. And it's a funky group because there's a bit of diversity in shape here. There are smaller body things like Pyroraptor, which is it has these kind of recurved and serrated but also conical teeth in its mouth. A lot of them, which is generally considered to be a primitive feature. But it's kind of your classic pure avian shape, arms, legs,
Arms and
your
legs.
tetrapod.
What else does it have?
Holy shit.
Yeah, all right. Relatively long arms, but then there are things like Unenlagia, which is kind of the taxa for which the group is named. Which, when it was first described, was like everyone was like, "This is a very bird-like animal. It has very long forearms, and I think its third digit's pretty heavily reduced."
I think so. It's also got weird, I believe, bird-like pelvic traits.
Yes, yeah. And so kind of there was we actually have a cast of it at the Peabody Collections, I think expressly because Jock was ordering casts of things like very bird-like theropods at that exact moment in time. There's Osteraptor, which appears to be some kind of piscivore, with conical teeth, short arms, kind of squat, of a fairly peculiar shape for a dromaeosaur. And then there are things like Rahonavis, which are controversial in their placement within the group, which some argue are closer to Archaeopteryx, or if they're within dromaeosaurs, imply that dromaeosaurs evolved flight, separate from birds, and also 2 times.
Which would be
Yeah.
cool.
And I mean,
But
And that's also from Madagascar, which is kind of it's an outlier at the very end of the Cretaceous in Madagascar, as opposed to the middle to late Cretaceous of Argentina.
right. And Rhamphonavus, it's been disputed, but I think now it's pretty in many different matrices, the ones that exist. I feel like it's generally landing within Unlagines.
That's what I've seen, but people have strong feelings.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Although that's, I should note, there was a recent redescription of the total osteology of Rhamphonavus led by Kathy Forster. It's an
Top tier
I'm sorry?
paleontologist. Top tier paleontologist.
Exactly. Alan Turner as well, another top tier paleontologist, was on the paper. Pat O'Connor and some.
Oh, Pat. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. And
Oh, right. The Mongolia, the Madagascan team. Sorry.
And there was a fourth co-author, and I'm forgetting who it was.
Lost to history.
Lost to history and time. Well, the editor will find out who the fourth author was and put
Luis
their name on
Chiappe.
screen so that they're not omitted. Oh, it was Chiappe. Okay.
Oh, okay. That's a pretty star-studded cast right there.
Right, and they came pretty decisively down on the side of this is an unlogging. So I am inclined to trust that. Now there's an animal. There's not a next group in the traditional Dromaeosaur phylogeny. There's a next one animal that's incredibly enigmatic. It's a tiny Mongolian Dromaeosaur from the early Cretaceous called Shanag. Shanag is a difficult taxon for me to describe because, this is true in many senses of the word. I have been trying to write a description of some parts of its anatomy for the last 5 years, and so it truly must be considered a difficult animal for me to describe. But it also is, it's the subject, unfortunately, of one of the kind of one that got away papers from early in my career, where I really thought I had a very interesting story about it. I talked about it a little bit at SVP, and under further analysis and scrutiny, it just didn't hold up. So I shelved the paper. This is a thing that happens to you in science sometimes. I think it's something that's important to learn to do, especially if it happens in grad school, is that sometimes your ideas don't pan out. And even though something seems to make sense and it's a cool story and it's supported superficially, when you get into it, the data doesn't really indicate what you had hoped it did.
Yeah.
Dalton,
Anyway.
can you do the Yoda, the greatest teacher?
Hang on, I got little thirsty boy's got to do a drink before that.
Okay, which is the lesson of Jimbo's story, and also my
The greatest teacher, failure is.
Thank you. Excellent. But yeah, no, it happens. Sometimes you're like, oh, I can't wait to find a thing, and then you don't find that thing. See some of my upcoming research.
Yeah, Shanag is known from only a maxilla, and a lower mandible that includes the dentary and the superdentary, and a little bit of the splenial. It's got weird teeth. It's got a couple of very large teeth, and in a lot of aspects of its morphology, it seems to be transitional from the more plesiomorphic dromaeosaurids to the more derived dromaeosaurids, and that is exactly where most modern phylogenies are placing it, as kind of bridging the gap between things like Unenlagines and more derived dromaeosaurids like Microraptorians and Eudromaeosaurs.
Which I have a problem
Do you?
with the interpretation that Microraptorians are derived.
Well, I mean, right, they're
I know what you mean, but there's yeah, well, anyway, do we want to talk about the next group?
yeah, which are Microraptorians.
They're super cool and have great I won't say great fossil record, but at least these things are known from the early Cretaceous.
And there's a lot
So yeah, and there are a lot of them. Wolong, several, I think at least 2 species of Microraptor, right?
it's debated, but I think one is
Sinornithosaurus, I think is also a Microraptorian, right?
yeah, Sinornithosaurus is. I mean, modern phylogenies are basically showing every dromaeosaurid from the Yushan formation of the J-hole biota as being an acclaim.
I thought Genualong ends up in a weird position.
That used to happen in more modern or in more recent phylogenies. It's also pulling into the clade. Although, like, that's matrix
not
dependent.
fly. Okay, and so these are generally smaller bodied, like under a meter, usually. Little dromaeosaurs, and they're pretty famous because these are feathery guys. Well, they're all feathery guys, but these are ones where we have great fossil evidence of feathers. Long, tenacious feathers on the forearms, and on the hind limbs, on the tails. They're gorgeous. You get some feather color reconstruction for them. We're not going to talk about that too much right now, but they appear to be gliding and in some cases capable of a degree of powered flight, which sure is interesting. Now, I was earlier interrupting and lamenting to Jimbo that this is the third group up in Dromaeosaur. However, I personally, in my opinion, and I know this is not an opinion only shared by myself, but there are other people who think this. Suspect that the Microraptorine condition reflects the actual primitive condition of Dromaeosaurs more so than Hauscaraptorines generally in terms of ecology and overall shape, and Unenlagines as well, in that those are groups that we're picking up well after they've diverged, versus Microraptorines, which go back a little farther and are very similar in their general morphology and ecology to early Troodontids, which we do have from the Jurassic, and early Paravians, which are small, possibly partially arboreal, and capable of gliding with feathers on the fore and hind limbs. So in this conception, the earliest Dromaeosaur is something like that. Maybe it's not necessarily gliding or flying yet, but from that animal, everything else is divergent. From something like that, things are diverging. Microraptorines, in my conception of this, retain that primitive morphology more so than the other groups, and Eudromaeosaurs, the big famous ones, and what kind of Pyroraptor here is styled after, are secondarily large predatory ground predators. Sorry.
Right. And I mean, I think this is something I'm inclined to agree with Alex on. Yeah, like, think about what Archaeopteryx looks like, and think about what Microraptor looks like. Think about the fact that in the upcoming video game Prehistoric Kingdom, I think they have the same character model, but with different colors and very slight variations to the model.
They have the same rig at the very least.
Yeah.
Right, and I mean the models are very similar. If you didn't tell me which was which when I got the game, I would.
Really?
Well, I mean,
One of them has wings on its legs.
Yes.
Okay.
He's exaggerating to make a point.
Not a good one.
Yes. Oh my god. All right, whatever. They look very similar. They've got wings, and they've got long legs, and they've got a tail, and they've got feathers all over the place. And I think Alex is probably right. I think Hauscaraptorines and Unenlagines, if Alex and I are correct in our supposition here, is kind of demonstrating the platypus phenomenon, where an early diverging lineage that is reduced in diversity later, or that you're at least picking up much later in its evolutionary history, often will show weird adaptation that are not representative of the base or the primitive condition for the clade that it belongs to. So platypus are monotremes, which are extremely early diverging mammals relative to the modern groups. That is not what the ancestral mammal looked like. They got weird.
But they do have informative features. Like, right, they lay eggs, they have all the extra shoulder bones. And there are lots of weird primitive features in Mahakala. Mahakala, thank you. And other and Unenlagines and stuff like that.
Right.
It's tricky when you have these groups that are polarizing and characterizing the early evolution of your clade.
Right. No, they show with discrete characters, they are pretty unequivocally more basal than Microraptorians, but they seem to have gotten weird on an ecomorphological angle. But the discrete characters in their skeleton make a very compelling case for the current phylogenetic position being at least mostly correct.
Yes. No, I'm not. Yeah. To clarify, I'm not arguing that I think Microraptorines belong farther down on the tree in Dromaeosaurs. I'm just saying that I believe they reflect the primitive ecomorphology.
Right.
Okay,
In the same way that you could say mustelids like weasels probably reflect what the earliest carnivore and mammals
Yeah.
looked like more,
Yeah.
despite not being the most basal group of them. Right. I believe bears are within chain of forms. I think bears are actually the most basal group.
Wow, really? Okay,
I
don't know
believe so. But in any case, I don't believe mustelids are the most basal group.
Okay. So yeah, that was a good Dromaeosaur.
Well, there's the one we didn't talk about very much, which maybe we don't need to, is Dromaeosaur.
Canids are more basal than
Right,
bears. Sorry to.
What are?
Canids, just dogs.
Oh, canids themselves are. Okay. Right.
Canids.
I know.
Caimans are also more
The
basal than
outgroup
bears.
to weasels are caiman.
And I won't elaborate on the context.
Yeah. Yeah, so Dromaeosaurs are just what you normally think of when you think of a raptor dinosaur like Velociraptor or Deinonychus, Utahraptor, Sornidolestes, Bambiraptor, Dromaeosaurus, Curricula. That's the one everybody's thinking of, I know.
Everybody.
Did you say Shri yet?
I didn't say Shridevi yet, no.
Shri. Did you say Velociraptor?
I did.
How many times did you say Velociraptor?
That's...
For later.
And there's Adasaurus, Sagon, Linhayraptor.
You don't need to name all of them. There are
How
about
many Dromaeosaurs can you name? Can you name them all?
Dakotaraptor.
They're exclusive. So Dromaeosaurs are also like.
Scott. Don't you speak that name in front of me. I don't like turtles, okay? You know that kid who says I
Not
like
him.
turtles?
That wasn't James.
He
I'm
doesn't
not like him. It wasn't.
Oh yeah,
as a kid.
speaking of Dromaeosaurs that jump around a tree.
Yeah, Dakotaraptor. Anyway, we've ranted about Dromaeosaur phylogeny enough. The end point here is that Pyroraptor could be any of these.
Or all of them.
It's more an idea of a Dromaeosaur.
It's a nebulous cloud of a Dromaeosaur.
And that's why it kind of works in the game, where this could be any kind of maybe
like
Dromaeosaur.
I know that it's a relatively common thing for people to when playing the game use unrelated dinosaurs as kind of placeholders for different very closely related ones. I would not blame you. In fact, I would probably say you are both morally and objectively correct if you put these in your game and just labeled them as Deinonychus.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, shit! We didn't mention that this thing's like 5 times larger.
Oh yeah,
so
big! In the film and so in the game, it's much bigger than Pyroraptor.
Well, I mean that's a common thread for a lot of Jurassic franchise raptors, I guess now, because now we have 3 of them.
Well,
in the
movies, there's a 4th special friend in the game.
Everyone's favorite child.
Is it?
They turned him into
It's the Dromaeosaur equivalent of the kid in the Babadook.
Why can't you just be normal screams?
So at the beginning of the video, I was being salty and mean about this design, and having looked at all these non-movie skins, I have to say something alarming, which is that I was incorrect. Yeah.
I've completely. I'm not going to say, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I actually think I dislike the movie design and the color scheme
Yes.
very heavily, but I like all of these a lot. Actually,
One of the things that I really like about a lot of the Frontier skins are a lot of them you can get color patterns that are very weirdly Songbird inspired, and they look so good. They are absolutely stunning. I remember when I was going through and picking out my favorite skins to make my ideal park, I had a really hard time deciding between a lot of the Frontier skins. They're very pretty. I have a lot of nitpicks about the design, but the coloration and patterning are not those.
So just before we get into maybe actually the design and ranking and all that jazz, I know that we had wanted to talk about some of the behaviors of the animal in the film, and do we want to talk at all about this the other appearances of this animal
Oh, yeah.
Paleomedia, and not the prehistoric planet where it shows up for 2 seconds as baby.
I mean, I was first introduced to Pyroraptor, as was previously established in our Carcharodontosaurus video. The only way I ever learn about anything is through movies and video games. So I was first introduced to what?
Why is that?
Because I'm illiterate.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Wait, Scott. Do you have dyslexia?
Where?
Where?
Where is he?
Is the dyslexia in the room
He's
with
in
you right
doorway.
now?
Quick, shoot the dyslexia, Scott.
I can't tell which one is you.
Quick, which one's the dyslexia? Ask them both to spell pre-psychopathis.
Hey, that's not. You got to sound that one out sometime.
I don't know. What about necessity?
Amelia and I shared an office for long enough while I was writing enough papers that I think if she had been told to pay attention to it, she would have noticed the marked deceleration of my typing every time I had to write pre-psychopathis. Like,
where you just like.
Yeah, well, it's like I generally type pretty fast, and then just like like.
Anytime I have to describe any vertebral thing, like intradiapopha.
It's a stupid language.
Too many words.
Yeah,
too many letters.
We did a bad one with those.
So, anyways, I was first introduced to Pyroraptor in Dinosaur Planet, where it makes an appearance in, like, honestly, one of my favorite sequences in any dinosaur documentary, period. The whole episode is ostensibly about Hattig Island, kind of before a lot of the stuff got more formally like pinned down as to what everything was, because looking back on the episode, it's a lot of like, oh, that's not what that is anymore, that's not what that is anymore, and all that stuff. But it's the island of dwarf dinosaurs that you probably saw, that you definitely saw if you watched Prehistoric Planet, that with the Hatzegopteryx and everything like that. And in the episode, a Pyroraptor gets washed away from the mainland on a piece of driftwood after a tsunami and ends up on the island of dwarf dinosaurs in essentially a shockingly scientifically paleo-based dinosaur version of Gulliver's Travels. And
it's a very weird concept.
Yeah.
For a
it's a
segment of
really
that show.
weird concept. It's even
great.
weirder when you look at it and you're like, yeah, that's not off base.
Yeah, no, they did it pretty well.
So, like Gulliver's Travels, is it a period commentary and mockery of the travelogue?
Yes, actually. So one of the things that is not super well known about a lot of dromaeosaurs is they were incredibly insufferable travel bloggers that just constantly talked about how, like, it's actually not that difficult to just go see the world. You just have to go book a ticket and just go. And
Wait,
Scott, do that voice more.
no,
Do that voice in more videos.
I refuse.
I said travel log.
I
not
know.
travel
I was
log.
updating it to a modern sense.
The travel log is very modern, sir.
In the grand scheme of humanity, sure.
I like going to a country and making up like people who like walk on their elbows. I'm like, yeah, that's real. I saw
I
that.
didn't know how to make a funny joke based off of that, so I just said travel blog. What the fuck ever? Holy shit.
No, the voice
Break
is
me over the
great.
coals, motherfucker.
No, yours
Thank
was
you.
very good. Did dromaeosaurs also complain about the fact that they had to climb stairs when they were vacationing
Yes.
in Italy?
Wait, what?
Have you not seen this video? I'm sorry, we're gonna do. So this like American woman is like screaming into her phone on a rooftop on the Amalfi Coast, and she's like, "Listen, they all say the Amalfi Coast is a good place to visit. Side note, I have been to the Amalfi Coast, and it's where I want to go when I'm about to die. It is the most beautiful place I've seen in this entire
that makes
world.
sense. It's Italy. Italians, they migrate there like elephants to a graveyard.
Yeah, the streets are just full of leathery old Italians.
Yeah, it's
who are-
Italy. That's
No,
how
they're
it
not,
works
'cause
there.
Old Italian men never die.
Well, that's true. No, I
No,
didn't say
they're
dead
just
ones.
there.
I said living ones. They're all at the coffee shop.
Oh, good
Like
point.
the fucking California raisins, but with more of an accent.
Only 3 of them are allowed to die a year. It's a problem.
Right. This year, Berlusconi was 2 of them. Yeah, but anyway, so this woman's complaining that to get to the Amalfi Coast, she had to fly into Naples and then take a train, and then she gets off with all of her luggage and had to climb, and she says 100 steps to get to her hotel.
Oh no.
I'm like, listen, if they were making you climb the equivalent of, I don't know, the Empire State Building with your suitcases in tow, I might understand a slight complaint. 100 steps is 3 or 4 flights.
Oh my lord.
I don't know.
God, Americans abroad suck.
Yeah.
Can't wait to
Say
be
that as an American abroad.
I do everything in my power to not stick out when I'm abroad.
It's hard.
It is hard. Well, it's easier in some places than others. But
Just when they hand you
Right.
food, just say yes. That's how I ate so many chicken hearts down in Brazil.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's where I learned about Pyroraptor as well. It was briefly my favorite dinosaur because it had a cool name and it was red. And it was shown as a big Dromaeosaur, which it's not. Pyroraptor was quite small.
That's a little detail that I like about that episode, though, is that they make a point to mention on the mainland. It was just this thing is it's doing good at what it does, but it ain't a heavyweight. And then it gets to Hattig Island, and it's oh, this thing's the top predator now.
Right, it's the largest thing on the island by far. It's like
Look
the
at me.
Jeb meme. It's all Pyroraptor
Yes.
behind. Right. Yeah, and now it's in Jurassic World, which is kind of cool. And I think we're running up to the end time for the video, but I think it is worth noting that it does make me happy to see that after talking about the dinosaur-bird connection in 1993, for the first time in major mass media, the Jurassic franchise has included a fully feathered Dromaeosaur. And it's feathered reasonably well. I think there's some discrepancy over the way the feathering is depicted on the arms, but I mean, for a popular audience that isn't counting the coverts and the rows of secondaries and all of that, I think this is a pretty good way to introduce them to the concept.
And
Yeah.
the fan of feathers on the
Yeah.
tail, the crest, which is maybe a little outdated in interpretation, but and the full body feathering. I remember a lot of people were oh, is it just going to be along the arms, the top of the back and the head? But
Yeah.
No, it's all over.
If we are to nitpick, and we're experts here, we could do that. We zoom into the fucking mouths of every single dinosaur we look at on here and count its teeth and see if they did it right. This one's mouth is bad, and it has too many teeth to go way back beyond the orbit. It's terrible. It's just like the Velociraptor and every other Dromaeosaur in the game. But if we are to nitpick, like James said, that there are discrepancies, not even discrepancies. The arm feathers are wrong. They do get it kind of correct in the broad strokes. I will applaud. The hands are right. The hands are facing each other. They're doing the clappers, not slappers. But even more so, as you can see right here, it's doing the typical Dromaeosaur thing. That Dromaeosaurs and Maniraptorans are famous for having a semi-lunar.
I'm sorry, many what? Oh my god, I thought you said many raptorins, and I'm like, what is a raptorin? I've never heard of a raptorin
Who is
before.
Maniraptorin?
Jesus
Who is this
Christ!
Maniraptor?
Scott is in a rare video first. I'm sorry, Scott.
I'm very happy we have that recorded. But so the Maniraptorins are
Okay.
are
all right, let's
known
not-
for their
get one.
Oh, can we pause right here?
Yeah.
I want to see it with its running with its gross hands out. But they're
Ooh.
tickle fingers. But So they're famous for having. Actually, if we could cut to another one for when I'm making this point, and then we'll come back to that one. Yeah, perfect. That one right there. Yeah. They're famous for having a semi-lunate carpal in their wrist that it literally just means half-moon-shaped wrist bone, basically. And it allowed them to fold their hands this way, like how you see birds do when they fold their wings. It's the same thing. So when these guys are walking around and standing, they have their wrists folded in the proper direction, which is super, super cool and a really fun little attention to detail thing. But if we run over to Mr. Ticklefingers over there, we'll show you one of the bad things about this design.
James, do we want to be pedants about the distribution of the semi-lunate carpal, or are we just going to let that?
We're gonna let that slide.
What's wrong with it?
Well, there's nothing wrong with it.
No.
Okay. The homologous structure of a semilunate carpal has a deeper ancestry. The actual semilunate morphology, I think, is restricted to Maniraptora.
All right.
Yes, but it's a fusion of two distal carpal elements, and that fuses earlier than they take on the half-moon-shaped appearance. Yeah.
The moral of this is we had to learn it, so now
but,
so do you.
Like, the ability to do that bent wrist thing is... It's a Maniraptor characteristic. Yeah. But, okay, so what we can see here on this guy who's...
with Mr. Chuckle.
No, it's French. It's Monsieur Chucklefoot. And it's spelled Fuque or whatever. Jesus. Is that the hands are entirely naked. That's not correct.
I didn't even notice that until I saw Monsieur
Chucklefoot.
Monsieur Chucklefoot.
Monsieur Chucklefoot.
Yeah. So
are we discriminating against the French right now?
But so,
on our channel.
Oh. Look at that.
It looks like a man in a suit right there. It looks
this is not the best angle for it.
It looks like a tarred and feathered lizard.
No, this is the best angle for it, Dalton. Look at this. It's doing
it reads very animalistic to me, just not like a dinosaur.
He's in Thriller. This is just a screenshot.
Now it's
there we
raptor.
go. That's a good raptor pose. But so as you can see, the hands are naked, and that would not be the case. So Dromaeosaur arm feathers would have not stopped at the wrist like we see in a lot of, I guess, a lot of earlier paleo art of feathered dinosaurs. They would have actually continued down and attached down on the second finger of the three. And so essentially when this animal,
which is where it attaches,
in birds now, where if you were to look at a real life dromaeosaur that was folding its like wing arms, wherever you want to draw that line, the first finger would be free, and you could probably see it kind of peeking out from the wing there, kind of how it looks when it has its arms folded. Like, it looks very nice when that happens, and then it sticks its hands out and it looks like it rolled its sleeves up, and I hate it again.
Now, is that a carryover from the movie, or is that just how it's rigged in there?
I don't know.
I tried to find a still of it from the movie and I couldn't quite tell.
Because it definitely, it's coming at him with its
I'll have
arms
to look
out
through, but essentially it would be very obvious, because if it has its hands out like that, the feathers would also be projecting forward. And so
they do a little bit better. It looks like in the movie they're maybe not entirely all exactly where they're supposed to be, but they do seem to be more attached to the hand than they are in this.
Yeah.
Which this very well could be a consequence of having to put the feathers onto a pre-existing Dromaeosaur rig.
And if anything, that which is given away by its shadow. And if anything, what you might notice looking at the wings there, for lack of a better term, especially that guy with the ends of those feathers highlighted, is that the wing shape kind of has an almost extra lobe at the end, like nearer up to the up to where the hand is, those would be the feathers that are attached to the finger. So it just kind of looks really weird and kind of broken when it puts its hands out like that, and they're just not attached in the way that they look like they should be.
So, while we're talking about kind of minutia of the design, something I'd like to point out that I noticed for the first time today while we were playing, and it ties into the behavior that we said we were going to mention and then never did.
Oh, yes.
Is that the feet
It's awful.
are a little webbed. It's not awful. Why was that? That's great.
That's tight.
So in the movie, the Pyroraptor, if you recall, sees Chris Pratt and Han Solo lady, and then dives underneath some frozen ice to swim at them to attack them. Now, as immediate predatory behavior of something going after something that's like 50 feet away, not the most practical of approaches. Kind of stupid. As behavior that an animal that lived on an archipelago near the ocean and near lakes probably could do is swim. And I fully expect that Pyroraptor could swim, and I don't think it's unreasonable to even expect it to maybe have some adaptations for swimming.
I concur,
Do you know
Dalton.
what I don't get, and I
made you upset.
absolutely hate?
What?
That and it has nothing to do with like accuracy or anything like that. I just think that it's really stupid that in back-to-back movies they introduced Baryonyx and Pyroraptor and made the fire thief swim and the aquatic dinosaur get lava dripped on it. That's dumb.
Well, if you do that with Pyroraptor, the feathers would catch flame and it would die
whatever.
instantly.
If you kicked a Dromaeosaur hard, like kind of hard in the ribs, it's
Of Pyroraptor side.
Yeah, in Pyroraptor side, it would just all of the ribs would shatter. It would be like you're just ripping off a button-down shirt that's poorly made.
I know we're being nice about the whole like.
Oh god, the movie design
so bad.
sucks.
But like we're being nice about the whole like, oh, it probably had adaptations to swim and like and go move around. It lived in an archipelago and stuff. Yeah, that's all well and good. That doesn't change the fact that when I first saw the like leaked clip of the Pyroraptor just like jumping straight into the water when it was 10 feet in front of people and trying to get them underneath the ice, I thought I was having a stroke.
Listen, nobody has ever accused Jurassic World Dominion of being well written. I'm sorry, Amelia, go ahead.
No, I was just say that said, I love one of the memes that came out of it, which was "Unpyros your raptor." That killed me. I love that.
There's only, and we need to wrap the video up, so I'm just gonna say this has to be the last thing we say about the movie. I do wish it were commented on a little bit. Just like there's a lot of talk on the internet that like Dr. Grant never sees the feathered raptor, and that would have been a really nice moment character-wise to bring things.
Does see Moros, right?
He does, but again, he never like comments on it, and maybe that's just. I'm gonna say that this is intentional, as if this amount of thought was put into the movie. Like Dr. Grant would know that dinosaurs were feathered, so he would not be surprised to see a feathered dinosaur. But it would have been nice for him to be able to say, look, a feathered raptor, oh my god. Or for any character to be like, oh my god, that raptor has feathers. But...
why does it have that?
Right. I do kind of like that they don't talk about it, because it feels a little bit like the movie just being like, yeah, just fucking get over it. They have feathers. We're not going to make a big deal over it. They have feathers.
Yeah.
Oh, Scott, I mean, we didn't mention it when you were talking about it, but the semi-lunate carpal is something that is mentioned in the first movie.
Yeah.
In like the first 5 minutes.
When they're on the dig site, yeah.
By Grant. Yeah.
It's really cool.
Oh, right, yeah.
So another thing I just want to say about like the design and especially the animations and stuff is that we've been saying this whole time, like it is really cool that we finally. I genuinely did not think that we would get a like main series Jurassic movie that had a feathered raptor in it. I thought that we would have to wait for like a reboot or a spin-off or something like that to actually see it. It is so cool.
Or the most annoying person on Twitter to it.
It is so cool that we're actually able to see this in a mainline Jurassic. In the game, it annoys me how much it flaps Like, it really seems like it's like half of its animations are just like, look, this is the one with wings. Like how a lot of early Allosaurus toys always have it where it's like doing this with its fingers all the time of like, look, this one isn't T-Rex, it has 3 fingers. And like, it bugs me. Like, it like takes a bite of meat and it's like, and it just like looks at another one and it bugs me. I hate its animations.
Listen,
I like
Scott,
it.
Really?
I hate to break this to you. These were probably little flappy boys.
Yeah, they were probably flapping
But
all
if
the
anything,
time.
I wish it did it in the fucking like actual takedown of the goat. Like, I wish that it kind of like flapped when it jumped. I wish it flapped to keep its balance when it almost fell over and stuff. And it's like,
Right. It just winds up looking like me when I see a platter of chicken farm. Like, it's just midair leaping.
it looks like it was known. It was like, this is a bird-like animal that needs to flap and do things, but it wasn't understood when animals would do that to make sense and have it look like an animal would. Like, I don't know. I'm weirdly hostile towards this design.
Clearly. Can I extol some of the virtues of it?
Yes, please.
Yes. Should we
Well,
do
there's
that
a few
in the
things I want to
species
talk
view?
about while we're watching it animated, which is that I like its preening
fine.
animation when it sits down.
Very good.
Love that. I love the social
Ooh, yeah.
animation where they kind of hop at each other. It like, there are flaws to this design, but it has the tail fan that is known from mini dromaeosaurs. It's got lips, unlike most of the dinosaurs, most of the theropods in this game. It does snarl them, which is debatable, but it has the lips. It has the webbed foot, which it correlates to its behavior in the movies. There's a lot that I like about this design, and I'll say more in the species.
Another fun design thing that we're not going to see in here because we're not going to go into the settings to make it happen, but it actually has a special animation for when it stops raining. It actually has a shake off like a dog animation that's animated with all the feathers. It looks absolutely lovely.
Excellent.
Shall we take it to the species viewer?
Let's take it to the speech.
Yeah.
Does anybody have final thoughts
I hate
before we
its
do
face.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the face is rough. Some of these skins, fortunately,
Wait, Amelia,
make
I
it
saw
less
your
bad.
mouth move, and I didn't hear your voice move.
I just agreed that the face was
Busted.
bad.
Okay. Amelia, say what you think.
Okay. I like the colors a lot, and just now, like, when we were scrolling through them all, it made me like them even more. I don't care that it has an ugly face. I think it's fun. I don't care that it swims in the ice. It's a movie. I don't go to see a Jurassic World movie to think. It's fine. I don't know. I like it from a distance. Even not from a distance, I don't care. It's snarly. He's got a personality. It's different from the other raptors. It's not like the Raptor, which is just Velociraptor but taller. Like, I don't know. I like it. I'm gonna give it an A. I can't give it an S, obviously, because goblin face, but like, I do really, really like it. And I was very happy to see it in the trailers.
I am extremely torn because the movie design. Dalton, can you show the movie design briefly?
Don't make me do it.
I'm sorry.
We're not here to rank the movie design, friends.
If this were the only design in the game, which is the only design I've ever put in the game, because the only time I played the Biosyn DLC was actually when we recorded some early videos about it that we ultimately scrapped.
They were bad.
They were not good. Lesson to the wise, folks: if you decide to make a YouTube channel, the first videos you record will not be good videos, and you will have to redo them all. If this were the one I were rating, I would rank this D tier.
Whoa.
Yeah. I really...
D tier?
Yeah, I really hate the way it looks in the movie.
Strange people I know.
But... I'm sorry, yeah. But the skins in the game are so beautiful and bird-inspired, and even, like, seem to smooth out some of the roughness with the skull. I don't know if it's just, like, how they recolor it, that it kind of accentuates the good and de-emphasizes the bad. Like, it's got a good makeup job or
That one's
something.
hot. I like that one.
I love this skin. I like a lot of them. And from far away, what I don't like is that kind of kink that develops between the orbit and the snout. But from far away, you don't even really notice it. Like, this is a great design. Again, I don't think I can really give it an S tier. But the fact that it's a pretty well done feathered raptor does do a lot for me. So I'm going to echo Amelia. I'll go with A.
Dr. Professor Scott.
Yeah.
Oh, or is it me? Yeah, it's Scott.
So
King.
I'm gonna be. I spent a lot of this video dragging this thing, and I have a lot of complaints with it. Obviously, see the last X number of minutes. That being said, I have critiques because it's so close to perfection, and I like so much of it, and it's like it's like you're good, you could be great sort of situation. I think I'll also give it an A. I think in the broad strokes, it does well. The frontier skins are fantastic. I really another thing we didn't mention. I really like the sounds it makes.
Yeah.
I think it makes some really good noises. It's a little bit more distinct from the other ones, the other kind of like raptor noises in the game, with the exception of
This one, it looks like an Italian man when you look at it front on in this one.
It
Slick
looks
back
back
hair.
real good.
Give it more of a bit of an angle on the left side and zoom in a bit. Hey, what's the matter, you?
This is literally just Christopher Moltisan.
But yeah, it's a fun design. I enjoy it. Like my critiques with it are more with the critiques in the movie, at least with like the web foot and stuff like that. But like, it's good. I'm happy it's in the game. I'd be sad if it wasn't.
Fair. I am going to defy the apparently based on third-party review and analysis. I'm apparently the most negative member of the skeleton crew in terms of designs. I will defy this and say that I like this design so much, especially the alternate colors, that I would put it in a low S tier. I think its head is stupid and bad, and that its little hands came out is playing on my mind. But I've decided to push those thoughts down.
Pretend I do not see.
And think about the things I like. And I like a lot of it. I like its animations. I like its sounds. I love how the feathers look. I love that it's really the only Dromaeosaur in the... Well, I don't love it, but it's the only Dromaeosaur in the game you can really breed if you're looking to make anything even slightly resembling our modern conception of a Dromaeosaur. So, I say an S. I'd like to see more feathery Dromaeosaurs like this that are nicer. And then maybe this would be an A. But it's currently an S, and I stand by it.
Alex, the last bit of your argument there has swayed me. I was more in the A side. But this is, I think, the best of the non-stylized Dromaeosaurs in the game. I'll echo like I wouldn't put the movie design in D tier, but I'd maybe put it low B or C. And the frontier colorations elevate it so much. For me, it's this stripe right here, accentuating with this like little bit of color here that smooths out the face and really lets you ignore this. And it's this ugly kink right here. I don't know what inspired that, why they did that. I think they were trying to give it the kind of nasal crests from the like Sorna velociraptors, but it didn't work out. There's another thing that I can always I can assuage myself with is that we don't have a skull for Pyroraptor.
No.
Now I have no.
It didn't look like that though.
Maybe it did. Because until we found Dinochirus, if you drew that animal and said, there's an Ornithomimosaur whose skull looks like this, you would have said, fuck you, no there isn't. And then we found one.
What if I drew Housecaraptor? You know, like, hey, look, it's a Dromaeosaur. It looks like a goose.
So I don't expect that Pyroraptor looked like this. And if it did, it would not only be against my like scientific intuition, but it'd be like a miraculous coincidence that a movie predicted the design. But suffice it to say, Pyroraptor could look like anything. I happen to think beyond any accuracy, I do think this is ugly. But again, you can hide it, especially if you go far away and look at the coloration. Yeah, what everyone else has said, echoes true for me. I think this is. I would put this on the low end of S tier.
Dalton, those are the kinds of mental gymnastics that not only I respect, but that'll get you a.
Hey, I'm a Star Wars fan. I'm a master of Olympic gymnastics.
Oh no, that's not a criticism. I'm
that's where I
right,
get my
I'm right there with you.
experience
Okay. Well, in that case,
Attack of the Clones is good. I promise.
Attack of the Clones is an unwatchable film.
It's not great.
Now, Dalton, I think you can
Yeah.
stop your screen share and we can keep the recording going.
Yep.
Scott, can you
Already
pull up
have
the tier
it.
list and share that? Oh my god. What a man.
What a man.
It's like he wants to go home.
I am home.
Go to sleep.
Scott
Aye,
Scott
yay.
leaves the recording
Oh my
studio
God.
he rented out next to his
I wanna
apartment.
go home.
With Pyroraptor having gotten 3 A's and 2 S tier rankings, I think we can comfortably rank it a high A.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
So where are we thinking?
So
Maybe there.
I'd put it up near the Velociraptor
Up
we
near
have at the top of A.
Velociraptor?
Yeah.
yeah. Let's do
Perfect.
it.
There he is.
Okay. And now it's our favorite time of all.
The time for Scott to
It's time for the bright, colorful
Stop
shape to
screen
go
sharing.
whir.
switch tabs.
Alright, guys. It's that time of the video. It is time
Spin.
Spin.
to spin
That.
Spin
Spin.
that
Wheel.
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 Whoa!
Oh my
Look at her
God.
What are
go.
we gonna get?
Oh!
Megalosaurus.
Megalosaurus.
Oh, all right.
Stingosaur.
A European theropod.
Another European.
The oh my god, it's the European theropod streak. Well, Megalosaurus.
Hey,
is,
this one
Oh,
oh sorry.
well, I mean, Megalosaurus is an interesting dinosaur because
and it's
the
also
first
known from only very slightly more material than Pyroraptor.
Right? And it's from a place and a time that I would really like a Dromaeosaur fossil.
one. Yes. Well, so that's going to be it for Pyroraptor. Tune in next week to see our review of the design of Megalosaurus. Before you go, please remember that if you have not subscribed to the Skeleton Crew, you are supposed to subscribe to the Skeleton Crew.
You must.
And
Do it.
You have to. It's heavily encouraged. We'd also appreciate it if you like this video and comment on the video, because if you enjoy the video, it means a lot to us if you show it that way, and it helps us in the algorithm, which means we get to show this video to more people who might also like the video. And
Yes.
one final note. We have a
We
Patreon.
do.
Mm-hmm.
If you have money to spend on Patreon, only if you're being financially responsible, you should support us on Patreon. Because if you support us on Patreon, you'll be able to go to the Discord server for the Skeleton Crew, you'll be able to access a bunch of patron rewards, and you'll have your name scrolling through the credits of this video, which are strategically placed right now while I plug the Patreon. This is an advertisement that you're seeing, but it's also our credits. We also need to thank the very high tier, very generous patrons of the Skeleton Crew who are supporting us at Gorgosaurus tier or higher, who are entitled to a spoken shout out at the end of every video we make. Does
do.
anybody have the list open right now? Because I don't want to omit anybody.
Yes,
Thank you, Tom.
our patrons who are getting a vocal shout out this week are Benjamin Seepser, Philip Fico, Andrew Niddle, Florida Man, Max Ironpaw, Riley Shiro, and Wheat.
Wheat!
Thank you all.
Weed is our favorite patron.
You're
Well,
all our
no.
favorites.
No.
We love all
We
of our
love
patrons.
all of them the same.
We love our patrons in equal proportion to how
It
much
is
money
fun
they
to
give
say
us.
Wheat.
If you want us to love you more, give us more money.
No, we do love all our patrons equally, and I think I don't want to speak out of turn here, but I'm really amazed at the community that we're developing over in the patron-only Discord. It's become a really positive, wonderful place
Seriously.
to talk about dinosaurs and paleontology and everything related to them. So if you want to get in on that action, hop over to our Patreon and support us as much as you can. Only if you
Come by.
yes.
I'll tell you what movies I like and then tell you why the movies you like suck. That's really all I do.
God, it's exactly a simulator. of
I was
being
about
friends
to
with
say
Alex
this
in real
is
life.
this is exactly what it's like to be around him.
I remember I was talking about you once, Alex, with somebody. I'm not gonna out who, and they were like, I do like Alex, but man, he's really got an opinion on everything.
Yeah, that's right. Who was that? You can out him.
I'm not gonna out him. So
You can out.
anyway, that's it for Pyroraptor. Thank you again for watching. All of your support means a lot to us. Oh, and if you're still watching, remember to buy the Pyroraptor skull that Amelia's going to have to conjure from the ether.
Oh my god.
Just make it look terrible, like the one
do
in
it
the.
like Indominus. Like, just do the awful, heinous, horrific thing that we have on screen.
Okay, guys. Anyway,
Good night.
Bye.
Night.
Bye.